Part 29. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 295. As the sun sank into the horizon, the aviation magic ship Mystis landed at the airport of Shimizuki Academy. It is already the second day after leaving the ruins of Four Seasons like spring. The departure and return journey were also in the evening, but the early spring in the ruins and the late spring in the outside world presented completely different artistic conceptions. Shiyu Academy is still shrouded in the thin rain curtain of late spring, as misty as a veil. Since this was an exploration of the ruins that was not open to students, there was no one waiting outside the airport to greet them. Before going home, remember to submit a report to Principal Philia. Don't Tutor Letica and Tutor Wilbur go together. Ling, the summary meeting held in the conference room this morning is probably the last one. Does that mean this event is over? Well, is it over? Ika consulted the two instructors to confirm. On the way back, Instructor Wilbur had organized a summary meeting for all members of the ship. Because there were third graders from other subjects present, the biggest truth learned during this expedition to the ruins was not mentioned. Except for the 5 people who knew the true meaning of this exploration, the students in charge of logistics did not know the mystery of the floating island. At the meeting, the presiding tutors mainly spoke. Most of the time, it was more like each specialized subject taking turns summarizing knowledge points. Third graders are already accustomed to interdisciplinary subjects. Only Ika and the other second graders sounded completely confused. With Ling's personality, there was no point in listening carefully to such a boring meeting. Well, this operation will end when you leave this airport. If there is a follow-up, probably Principal Phyllis may have questions to ask you, right? The purpose of Principal Phyllis's organization of exploring the ruins is to use Ika's mechanical alchemy to open up the interior of the ruins. However, the course of events took an unexpected turn, and even more shocking facts were learned. Noticing that everyone's eyes were focused on her, Wei 11 nervously avoided their eyes. I think there's nothing to worry about. I'll just ask you a few questions at most. Right, Letica. Instructor Wilbur, who was like a ghost in the assault department classroom, also tried his best to help Wei 11 ease her anxiety. The environment of Frost Moon Academy is very free, so Principal Phyllis doesn't care much about this kind of thing, probably. Teacher Letica. What's wrong, classmate Wei 11? The inspection on Mystis when I came back. That result has been sent to Principal Phyllis. Judging from the numerical value, there is no need to worry at all. Although this was the second time Wei 11 had determined this issue, she still didn't fully accept it in her heart. Xiao 11, no matter who comes to read the inspection report, the result will not change. Luoluo saw Wei 11's every move and knew that these words could only give her some comfort. But apart from encouraging her with words, there was very little Luoluo could do to help her. Even if you have become a family, the sensitive parts of your heart still require special medicine. Ling suddenly put her hand on Wei 11's face, and her hand was stained with rainwater that she didn't know when. Wow! Wei 11's whole body trembled as her delicate skin was invaded by the cold rain. Ling won't let go just because of this level of moaning, and he gets used to this temperature very quickly. Wei 11's thoughts were suddenly taken away by Ling. Can't you believe this result? It's not that I don't believe it. If you believe it, why ask? That's because, I want to ask. Ling grabbed Wei 11 from behind, so his eyes couldn't meet her. If you can't look at each other and ask questions, there will be no absolute psychological coercion. No matter how Wei 11's eyes dodge or her expression changes, there's no way of knowing. In this bravado with plenty of margin, there is more energy to defend yourself. Because of this, Wei 11 could realize where the words she said came from. Then take it as such. But even if you have doubts, I don't think there is anything strange. Ling was very unwilling to imitate Ika's way of asking questions that left him speechless. Back then, I was standing in Way 11's position now, and I was confused about my position in this family. Only by personally experiencing the hesitation of not being able to find an outlet, Ling could confidently convince Way 11. If you accept answers that are different from what you understand and don't think about anything, I think that's what's wrong with your brain. There's something wrong with my head. If you have thought about it carefully, or questioned the result, it proves that your head is a good one. Ling, don't you have a better way to describe it? Now don't interrupt. You didn't say anything when I needed you to say it just now. Ling blocked Aika back without looking at her. Regarding Ling's accusation, Aika also felt that she was wrong. Ming had already seen Way 11's confusion, but she felt that she had done everything she could. He even concluded an obscure contract with her. Perhaps it was precisely because of this incomplete awareness that Way 11 couldn't figure it out even more. The argument between Ling and Aika made Way 11 raise her head, and Aika deliberately misaligned her eyes. Sister Ling, brother Aika has told me a lot. But I still can't help but think about it. In order to let down everyone's help and remain stuck in the cycle of self-pity, Way 11 wanted to apologize. So, everyone is like this. Even if I ask you not to think about anything now, you can't do it, right? It should be possible. Even I can't do it? Teilua-senpai. It shouldn't be difficult to understand what Ling means. There is still a lot of time left for you to think about it slowly. Teilua-senpai's reminder to Way 11 ended here, and Aika took the baton from her hand. If you're tired of thinking and still haven't figured it out, just find evidence from other people. The evidence I want. It doesn't matter if you don't know yet. You will know it as time goes by. The way they interact will not change. Luoluo and Ling have already accepted Way 11 in front of the stone monument in the Principality of Sentia. The name Xuechaoziji is very beautiful, with an ethereal artistic conception, just like turning Way 11's existence into words. However, to everyone, she has only one name. That was the name she told everyone with her will and her voice. Instructor Letica said that second-year students should just write the investigation report as their experience. Principal Phyllis sat them on the sofa and made everyone a cup of black tea. The aroma of black tea rose. Principal Phyllis sat across from everyone with her legs crossed, reviewing the four people's investigation reports on the PDA. Aika picked up the black tea and took a sip, but her attention was focused on Principal Phyllis's changing expression, and she didn't taste the black tea at all. On the way back, Aika went to their room to ask about the contents of their investigation report. At that time, the girls were all sitting on their beds in pajamas, editing text on their PDAs. It was different from the previous scenes of sitting together closely, probably because I didn't want others to know what I had written. I've finished writing it here. What are the main aspects covered in your investigation report? And you? Anyway, I'll write down the situation of the two third-level monsters first, and then the situation on Way 11's side. Well, it seems that we have almost the same content. Ling said as she put away the PDA. It seemed that she had finished writing. Aika originally wanted to refer to her content. Way 11 held her PDA in her hand. Have I been included in everyone's investigation reports? Because Xiao 11 is the protagonist of this ruins exploration. Luoluo confirmed Way 11's worries with a mischievous smile. Woo! Way 11, who didn't like being the protagonist, rubbed her legs uncomfortably, looking restless. Way 11, have you finished writing? Not yet. Way 11, who was asked by Aika, hugged PDA tighter. Brother, Teilua-senpai's blood, wasn't that included? Student Luoluo, that kind of thing has nothing to do with the exploration of ruins, so there shouldn't be any need to write it in. Teilua-senpai seemed a little anxious and interrupted. To say that it has nothing to do with the exploration of ruins, that doesn't seem to be the case. After all, he only noticed this fact because he was attacked by the 4th-level monsters in the field. Most of Aika's investigative report was devoted to recording the events of the next day, and the topic of blood was not mentioned. Since Tairua-senpai thinks it's not necessary, then just ignore it. Presumably, Teacher Letica and Teacher Wilbur have already reported this information, and what they want to write is just their experience. The most important part is indeed about Way 11. Sister Ling. What attitude we hold towards this truth should be what the tutors and Principal Phyllis want to know. Then our content will become the same, right, brother? It's all the same. Isn't there generally only one correct answer? Although I have known about your relationship before, looking at it now, it is more out of common sense than I understood. Senior Tairuya didn't have much contact with the 4 of them, and her understanding of them came more from the various rumors circulating in Chiyu Academy. When Tiburai Royal College encountered the crisis of armed occupation, she saw Aika getting injured while protecting Way 11, and she felt the unusually strong bond. Xiao 11, you should have also written about your own affairs, right? I haven't written to that place yet. Don't write weird content in it. I haven't figured out how to write it yet. Before signing the contract, Aika would also worry about the same problem as Luoluo. But now Aika has the confidence to keep Way 11 by her side. Her need for recognition was met. She needed her own recognition, and now that she was here was proof of it. Ling gave Way 11 a very serious reminder. Just write down your truest feelings right now, do you understand? True feelings. That's how you felt when you said thank you just now. You don't say that kind of thing casually, do you? Of course not. That's right. Aika looked at Way 11 who seemed to understand, and suddenly recalled her before stepping out of the circle. At that time, Way 11 always apologized habitually, but now she has learned to say thank you instead of apologizing. This is because she has been able to fully understand herself and openly accept help from others. Instead of placing all the responsibility for mistakes on oneself, one uses this behavior to emphasize one's own existence. Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 296. Principal Phyllis saw the end and then put the PDA in her hand beside her. The black tea in the cup has bottomed out, and only the aroma lingers in the room for a long time. Your investigation report has been passed, you can go back. Unexpectedly, after waiting nervously, I only got this sentence. Even Tairua-senpai showed an expression of incomprehension. Are you still going to stay here? I can also ask you to help me sort out the information as a follow-up to the mission. No. Principal Phyllis, is this okay? What I want to know is clearly stated in the investigation report you handed over. So there is no need to ask everyone personally. This is what Principal Phyllis meant. As for the situation of classmate Way 11. Way 11, who was called, immediately shrank her shoulders and sat upright. Principal Phyllis looked at her carefully for a while, and Way 11 did not avoid looking away as usual. Her own identity is an issue that cannot be avoided, and during this period she also made corresponding awareness. But what followed was Principal Phyllis's smile. Because there has been no such precedent so far, I can't make any comment. Principal Phyllis, can I still stay here as before? Aika thought Principal Phyllis had made her words very clear, but Way 11 wanted a clear answer. This timid and cautious character has not changed and does not need to change. It is enough for Way 11 to just be herself. The rules of Frost Moon Academy are that you must pass the graduation exam before you can leave. Just continue to be a student here for 2 years. Yes. What seems like a forced agreement is actually a piece of the puzzle that fills the soul. Way 11 accepted this agreement with gratitude and joy. Of course, if Way 11 is willing to help us check up on her health, I'd also welcome it. Well, I will cooperate. Way 11 agreed to Principal Phyllis's request without hesitation. Principal Phyllis, I want to make sure that this is really not a human experiment. Haha, how could it be a human experiment? It's just an ordinary physical examination. Principal Phyllis smiled and waved her hand, putting Ika's question aside. Although teacher Letica had already called everyone's attention to Principal Phyllis's request, it was impossible to tell when she said it like this. Besides, Way 11 should have her own considerations before agreeing. The time for Way 11's physical examination will be notified separately. Other than that, there are no special requirements for Way 11, as usual. Then, Tairua Senpai, who was still working, said goodbye to everyone in front of the student union room on the lower floor. After leaving the office building connected to the school building, the drizzle of rain had stopped. Street lamps were lit along the paths of the academy, and the speckled puddles turned into dark colors under the light. My feet stepped on the wet stone pavement, and the sound of footsteps that seemed particularly brisk at night like this was heard. Due to their own reasons, we rarely go home together like this recently. Ika, can you pick me up after class next time for the specialized subjects? Aren't you going to pick up Way 11 after class? Although it is like this, it only takes one time. Luo, can you exchange it with me? Why did Sister Ling suddenly think of that kind of thing? Ika, please go back and pick you up every day. I just want to experience that feeling. Her long golden hair swayed from side to side as she walked, and the ends of her hair, tied into a bundle with a swallowtail butterfly headband, hung modestly. Ling would make such a request, which really surprised Ika. With her character, she should be very resistant to this feeling of being taken care of. There's no problem with me here. The assault division seems to have ended relatively late, right? Because after the field training, there is still work to clean up, so it is relatively late. My brother comes back from Professor Kokina very late every day, so I end up waiting for him. Luo did not feel unhappy that his privilege was taken over by Ling, but instead chuckled. Ika originally thought that Luo would show some thoughts, but it turned out that he just took it too naturally. However, if the person waiting in front of the school building after school is Ling. Ahem. Noticing the change in Ika's expression, Ling pretended to cough a few times. Even if you come to pick me up, no one will misunderstand me. If you would say something like this, you must have misunderstood it in the first place. Your face is red. It can be seen at a glance that you are thinking in a strange direction. Are you qualified to speak against me? Going tit for tat with Ling at this time is just digging a trap for yourself. When Ika noticed, Luo and Way 11 were already staring at her face. Of course he wouldn't say the scene he was thinking of. If they realized it, both of them would become very embarrassed. It's okay to say that the people he went to pick up were Luo and Way 11, at least in the eyes of others they were just acting as guardians. At least, Ika can allow herself to accept the meaningful glances from other students in this way. It would be better to say that it's weird that you never come to my place. Why? You still ask me why? Ling's patience index had reached its peak. Luo and Way 11 did not dare to look in their direction and walked forward stiffly. Although they already knew why Ling was angry, of course they couldn't remind Ika at this juncture. We are living together. But we only talk when we are in the classroom. This is so weird. The reason why Ika didn't respond to Ling immediately was because she was worried about Ling's real thoughts that she didn't know. Although she said verbally that she wanted to experience the same feeling as Luo, Ika's intuition told her that it should be more than just that. If it's because you want to get closer, there are other ways besides making such a conspicuous move. Actually, it doesn't matter to me, as long as you don't care about that kind of thing. There have been countless things like that for a long time, and you are still saying this to me. If you see two people walking together, 11 out of 10 people will think that they are a perfect match. The 11th person is Ika himself. Then after school tomorrow, but the time here is not stable. If Professor Kokina has a whim, It doesn't matter, I'll wait for you then. Ling turned to Luoluo again. Luoluo. Huh? It doesn't matter to me. Luoluo didn't say anything against her will, so her smile was not a smile to hide. It was precisely to be able to stand in the same position as Ling and Wei 11, rather than taking advantage of the relationship that had been established at birth. Only in this way can you realize your true dreams. Luoluo and I, we have to go to the moonlight bath after school. Speaking of which, our part-time jobs have been off for quite some time. Ika tried to remember when the suspension of work in the Great Library began, but it felt like it had been too long and she had forgotten. So much happened during this time. It seems that I haven't helped with the work of moonlight bath since school started. I heard from the seniors that there are already first-year students here to help. As expected, we have become seniors too. Luoluo seems to have no resistance to children younger than himself and always cares about becoming a senior. However, in Ika's eyes, there is no difference between Luoluo and the schoolgirl Karel she met before. Perhaps there is something about Luoluo that he has matured that he didn't notice. Brother, is there something on my face? Ah, no, no. Luoluo seemed to understand, but also groaned as if he didn't understand. When Ika was looking for mature places in her body, she unconsciously thought of her when she lost her memory. Luoluo, who interacts with her purely as a girl, has a charm that cannot even be described as mature. Therefore, Luoluo just acted as a sister who needs to be taken care of in front of him. The exploration of the ruins ended earlier than expected, so it was not a long time before we had the dinner that Luoluo and Ling cooked together. After dinner, I spent time in the living room as usual. While the girls were taking a bath, Ika sent a text message to Professor Kokina's PDA asking about tomorrow's study plan. But no reply was received. When Professor Kokina is immersed in her own affairs, she usually checks her PDA very late. Thank you for your hard work, myself. If they saw him talking to himself like this, he would probably lose face at all. However, I have never said this to myself so far, and I don't feel bad about myself. Take today as a dividing line and take a good rest next time. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 297. Coming to the living room from the second floor, there is a fragrance different from shampoo and shower gel wafting in the living room. They had already changed into pajamas and were studying several small bottles they brought back from unknown time. Ika sat down next to Luoluo, and the herbal-like fragrance became even stronger. Are these cosmetics? It's perfume, something I mixed up randomly during class. It turns out to be the smell of perfume. Ika doesn't know the difference between perfume and cosmetics. I really regret not choosing the pharmacy department. At least it's much more interesting than the assault department. It's a tradition in the assault section to be the leader of the discipline section, and didn't you also do a good job there? That's just because of various reasons. I have to set an example, I just chose the assault division as a matter of course. There was nothing I could do. By the way, the pharmacy department can still do this kind of thing. It's far different from what I imagined. No, brother Ika, Luoluo made it with the remaining materials in his spare time. A random sideshow? It's really cool, Luoluo. Hee, in fact, the potion with only the fragrance left is a failure. It was obviously a perfume at the beginning, but now Luoluo humbly and secretly replaced the concept with it. The braid tied with a pink hair tie slid down her shoulders with her crossed fingers. Unlike the light fragrance of herbs, the scent of shampoo is closer to ripe fruit. Ah, does this smell weird? Stimulated by the sudden change in fragrance, Ika couldn't help but take a deep breath. I don't know why this detail was noticed by Luoluo. I just put a little bit on the back of my hand. No, no, it smells good. Ika quickly gave up Luoluo's idea of wanting to stay away from her. Is that so? Luoluo's hands that were originally supporting the sofa and trying to move away were put back on his knees, and he said with a stiff expression. Although he knew that Ika would definitely say this, Luoluo couldn't believe him just because of such words recently. This kind of unwarranted suspicion has a different meaning than trust, and Luoluo knows this. Rather than doubting whether his words were biased in his favor, it was more about doubting himself. Does anything look strange about you? Did you say something strange just now? There are many questions like this. Luoluo knew the reason why this happened, but he had not yet adjusted his mentality. This kind of mood was born in Luoluo when he was a child. At that time, the only person he realized was himself. However, we are no longer in the childhood period when we were ignorant of any concepts. On the other side, the topic discussed by Ling and Wei 11 changed direction unknowingly. Because the natural and unusual intimacy between Ika and Luoluo has developed to the point where it cannot be ignored. Ling had no intention of intervening between the two of them, and she shouldn't have done so either emotionally or rationally. Because Luoluo has promised to give up that rare opportunity. Moreover, this is an agreement only established between girls, and competition is absolutely fair. However, Ling noticed that Wei 11 glanced over there from time to time. Do you care? I don't care that much. There's absolutely no room for intervention in that kind of atmosphere. Luoluo and Wei 11 both seemed to be ready, but Ling was still at a loss. Perhaps, he was not regarded as a girl by Ika. Now that things have happened, Ling will no longer worry about his position in this family. Maybe I really haven't done anything that my family should do, and taking care of children younger than myself should be a matter of course. However, Ika considers this idea to be a conceit riddled with contradictions. He repudiated the values against which he had always measured himself while living here. Things a family should do, that is not a condition for being a family. Things that family members should do must only be done by family members. This was a sophistry that Ling could accept, or used as an excuse for himself to accept. However, this is not enough. Even now, my greedy self is still asking for more. Sister Ling. Ah, I'm sorry, I was in a daze for a while. Are you feeling unwell? It doesn't matter, compared to this kind of thing. After noticing Wei 11's gaze for the first time, Ling wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. But she doesn't want to become a bad woman that she even looks down on. Come on. In the end, he didn't give Wei 11 any advice, but he still indirectly used her. In this way, there are only 2/3 of the bad women. Brother Ika. Wei 11. Then, do you have time to listen to my story now? After Wei 11 finished speaking, she pursed her lips tightly and looked at Ika. Her eyes glanced at Luoluo for a moment, but Ika didn't notice. Ika originally thought that Wei 11 didn't want to touch on this topic again, so she had no intention of bringing it up again. I didn't expect that she would take the initiative to talk about this topic. By the way, brother, why do you think Xiao 11 looks like a human? Isn't Wei 11 herself more aware of this kind of thing? That, I don't know either. Do not you know? I just talked about this problem in the bathroom. It seems like it happened when I was unconscious. If I don't know it myself, it's even less likely that we will know it, not to mention that Principal Phyllis also said that there is no precedent. Ika briefly imagined the scene when Wei 11 awakened from the ruins. The snow-colored little fairy is like a newborn baby, holding its body and being wrapped in snow-colored light. At this time, Ika suddenly thought of a hypothesis. Wei 11, do you know other magic costumes? That is to say, can you talk to other magic costumes, or do things like telepathy? It should have been done before. Can it really be done? Ika originally just asked a question on a whim, but she didn't expect that such a whimsical thing could really be done. But it shouldn't be possible now. Wei 11 said apologetically, when the light flame sword woke up, I didn't notice. This shows that you have completely become a useless human being. Ling, who was sitting next to Wei 11 with her head hanging down, touched her head and specially emphasized the word useless. Yes, it has become useless. Ika smiled and watched Wei 11 cheer up. To be honest, it didn't matter whether she could do that kind of thing. By the way, the child named Lingian in your memories. That child is Liuyan now, right? Ling helped Wei 11 answer Ika's question before he could ask it. Anyone would care about the person who occupies such an important position in Wei 11's memories. More importantly, that child looks very similar to the Liuyan everyone knows, but his personality is slightly different. Although she also protects Wei 11 like her sister, she is more approachable than now. Xiaoan became a little stubborn because of what happened. Because you saved her, do you want to repay your favor? That's not the main reason. If it's just to repay the favor, you don't have to risk everything to fight like that. Ling was referring to the night when Liuyan came to recapture Wei 11 as an enforcer of the Holy See. At that time, Liuyan probably did not put her own life first. Wei 11 was the only one in her eyes and heart. I talked to her at Shimatsuki Academy, and she also came to see you later, right? Ika exposed Liuyan's abnormal persistence when he entered school, and Wuxi was in danger in the Tiburai Kingdom, which made Liuyan understand the limit of his overprotection. After Wei 11 returned to Shiyu Academy, Liuyan thought a lot and finally made up his mind to appear in front of her. After coming to this world from a country 100 years ago, Liuyan met Wei 11 honestly for the first time, but Wei 11 didn't realize it at that time. Before recovering the memory that she had actively sealed, Wei 11 always thought that this persistent concern was just a continuation of her childhood, mixed with feelings beyond love. It was only now that Wei 11 realized how heavy a responsibility Liuyan was carrying in her relationship with her. In that case, does Xiaoan still remember what happened in Senchia Principality? If you say so. Brother, do you really think so too? It's understandable if you explain it this way. Ika looked at Wei 11, she should have noticed it when she regained her memory. But she remained silent until Luo spoke up. Liuyan, who is far away in the Holy See, still doesn't know that Wuxi has recovered her past memories. Wei 11, are you going to tell Liuyan all this? Wei 11 secretly glanced at everyone, then her eyes returned to her fingers. Regardless of whether Liuyan is told that the truth she deliberately concealed has been exposed, the way the two interact with each other will not change. Compared to Liuyan, who already knew everything, Wuxi, who had just learned about the true relationship between the two not long ago, was even more confused. I want to tell her. After the silence, Wei 11 had simulated the reunion scene countless times in her mind and gave a firm answer, putting aside her worries. For Wei 11, this family, friendship and romance spanning 100 years have a deeper interpretation than everyone here. She stood up from the sofa with her PDA in hand. Thank you, Sister Ling, Luo, Brother Ika. Well, you go ahead. Ika nodded to Wei 11, and Luo and Ling also acquiesced to her departure. Wei 11, who had a tense and serious expression, bowed to everyone again, and then quickly walked up the stairs with brisk steps. We don't need to worry about Wei 11's matter anymore, Liuyan should take care of it. Ika was still thinking about another thing that he didn't want Wei 11 to hear, and he glanced at Luo. Luo understood immediately. Since it was a topic that didn't require his presence, it was probably a topic that he didn't want to pay attention to. Then I'll go back first. She began to put the bottles on the table into the wooden boxes with grids next to them. Brother, Sister Ling, good night. After giving slight greetings to the remaining two people, Luo also left the living room. The eye contact between Ika and Luo was seen by Ling, who was sitting beside them. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 298. If you are going to talk about the problems between our two families, Lululo should also need to know, right? We only learn the general situation through Way 11's perspective. Anyway, have you considered it? Ika didn't let her leave because she was worried that this topic would be too heavy for Lululo. He simply believed that it would be more appropriate to discuss this topic with Ling. In this family, only Ling and himself stand in a relatively equal position. Like you said, all we know is the crime. When the Bes Empire attacked the Principality of Sentia, the reason why the Chiz family and the Heinz family did not appear on the battlefield was because they committed rebellion. This is the information sent back to the Principality of Sentia. It is unknown what happened within the Bes Empire during that period. That association, the Nemesis Association, said that this accusation was false, and the Pope also had that ambiguous attitude. What did your parents say? You should know you didn't say anything. That's right. You didn't even know the history of your family at that time. You have long known that the Heinz family is a family with the surname Fu, right? Well, the situation is slightly better than yours, but that's all I know. Ling was more willing to believe in Way 11's memory than the words of the Holy See and the BZ Empire. She bit her lip reluctantly. The Nemesis Society is telling the truth, and we can only admit it. The Empire covered up the facts that convicted the two families hundreds of years ago and still regards them as heroes today. The Bes Empire cannot make the accusations public. I think there is no evidence. Evidence for conviction. Ling didn't know what Ika wanted to say. If there is no evidence, how can it be possible to convict? The evidence I'm talking about is evidence that the people can accept. Ling repeatedly thought about the evidence emphasized by Ika, coupled with the attitude of the Nemesis Society and the Holy See, and the line extending from this appeared in her mind. Do you mean that this charge is just a cover? Oh, you really think so too? Just think about it and connect it a little bit. What is right for the people is not good for the administrator's rule. At this time, the latter's rights are more important. Using crimes to remove obstacles in governance will not arouse dissatisfaction and protests among the people. It is understandable to cover up history in this way. Then what are you going to do? Since Ika had already thought of these things before this conversation, he must have also considered the next action. The only people in the BZ Empire that can be relied on are Lanming and Liuyan. Is Ika ready to borrow their power? We can't do anything, and I don't intend to trouble Lanming and Liuyan anymore. Ika's answer was far from Ling's imagination. Our own family's problems can only be rectified by ourselves. That is to say. Ling finally realized what she was doing, and she showed a somewhat surprised expression. Can we only discuss it with family members at this time? Well, parents should be more reliable than us students who haven't left the academy yet. But Lululo and I made an agreement that we will go home during the holidays. Ling, regarding your family, as long as you tell Way 11 the truth, you can be liberated from the frozen barrier. Ling did not immediately agree to Ika's proposal. All she needs to do is ask Way 11 to realize her strongest wish of the year. Ika has already told her about this. The person who decided to postpone this wish until now is Ling himself. I will think about it. Ling couldn't sit still any longer, and she left Ika's side. She had made up her mind that if this was the pain she had to go through to save her declining family, Ling could choose to wait in pain and longing. Ling, I won't say anything more this time. It all depends on your own ideas. If you can't decide, you can go home with us and ask my dad what they think. If you suddenly throw this kind of thing at me, I can't possibly answer you right away. Well, I know. I'm sorry. I didn't want to burden you anymore, but this kind of thing can't go on forever. It's not your fault. You don't need to apologize to me. Ling's expression was not clouded by the heavy burden. It would be better to say that you can treat me as the object of discussion. It's nothing. After the discussion, I feel a little more relaxed. At least I know what I should do now. After Ika was left alone in the living room, there was not much personal time left for him to think wildly today. What I just said to Ling, I actually hadn't thought about it before going downstairs. Just talking, these thoughts naturally popped into my mind. Maybe the perfume prepared by Luoluo had some effects that she didn't know about, such as making her head spin faster. To be honest, Ika doesn't know if she needs to worry about her family's problems. Ling's family has not yet been liberated from the barrier that freezes time, so it must not be ignored for her. Probably, I was just afraid that the anonymous Ji's family would follow in the footsteps of the Heinz family. Then use this reason to think, as Ling said, at least you know what you should do now. Tonight, Ika was also trying to contact Inili in her room. Since the night after she disappeared, Inili has never appeared in front of Ika again. Use magic power to activate the chip-type molecular power furnace in the PDA, and a silver-white magical light flashes across the dark screen. But the figure in the gorgeous 12 shirt still did not respond to Ika's call. Failed again. The magic light dimmed, and Ika casually threw the PDA that had returned to an ordinary machine on the bed. Professor Kokina has not yet received a reply. But while they were chatting in the living room, Chiuke sent a text message asking if everyone would come to class tomorrow. I don't know how Tailua Senpai explained to her that she was nowhere to be seen this weekend, but Chiuke should have noticed that this was something that could not be made public. So the leader of the twin class did not ask what everyone was doing during this time. Ika didn't have time to reply to this text message. She shouldn't be asleep at this time. Just as I was about to edit the text, a notification for a new text message popped up in my inbox. Is it from Way 11? After glancing at the less than one line of text, Ika immediately sat up from the bed. Counting from Mista's, this seems to be the third time that I have been called out of the room by text message like this. It was understandable the first 2 times, but there should be no need to do this at home. Could it be that it is now popular for girls to communicate through text messages? Endless Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 299. Way 11 came to Ika's room specially just to tell him that Lu Yin had not been contacted. Really? Then we can only find another time. One can imagine Way 11's disappointed mood now. Ika originally thought Liu Yin could fill this gap. Way 11, you won't have the courage to contact her again after today, right? Will not. Way 11, who was sitting side by side with Ika on the bedside, shook her head vigorously and held the PDA in her hand tighter. She must still be waiting for Liu Yin's call back. But, I'm still afraid. This is equivalent to going around in circles and confirming Ika's problem. Why can't I contact that stubborn young lady today? Speaking of which, how many years have passed since you came to this era? Well, when Xiaoan and I woke up in this era, it should have been 4 years ago. 4 years ago. When they first met, she was 12 years old as Way 11. 4 years ago, when she was 8 years old, she and Liu Yin lived in an orphanage together. Did Liu Yin come up with your name and age? Well, when I woke up, I had no memory of the past. Xiaoan told me everything. 4 years ago, on the day they woke up, Liu Yin hid the past from Way 11 and gave her a new identity. Ika didn't know what kind of mood Liu Yin had at that time to play the role of Way 11's sister. She didn't show any flaws in front of Way 11, making Way 11 believe that she was just a child who lost her parents. Because I have no memory of my parents, I won't feel sad because of it. At most, I will only feel a touch of sadness occasionally. Liu Yin has thought about it a lot. This deep feeling cannot be felt when she is Way 11. After being successfully adopted by the orphanage, he entered the Holy See the following year and became the Blue Knight because of his outstanding abilities. Everyone already knew these things when they met. Did you learn Liu Yin's magic when you entered the Holy See? At that time 100 years ago, magic had not yet been popularized and developed in the Principality of Sentia. The Liu Yin in Wei 11's memory was just an ordinary girl next door and had no connection with fighting. Ika's casual question made Wei 11's face darken immediately. Sorry, isn't that an appropriate question? Originally hoping to divert Wei 11's attention with topics related to Liu Yin, it backfired, and Ika quickly apologized to her. But regarding the question itself, Ika still doesn't know what's inappropriate. Brother Ika, haven't you noticed? The slender eyelashes drooped slightly, and Wei 11's heart was struggling in a place where Ika couldn't see. Maybe he understood it wrong. The reason why Wei 11 was afraid of facing Liu Yin was not because of the relationship between the two. From her painfully closed eyes, Ika felt that there was still a neglected corner between the two of them. For a long time, Ika didn't think of the answer, but Wei 11 had already opened her eyes. Xiaoyin's body has become like mine. What does it mean to become like Wei 11? From a physical point of view, there is indeed not much difference between the two of them, and this was the case in the past. There is no difference between them now and before they crossed over to this era. So this is what happened. Thinking of this, Ika suddenly realized. Neither of their bodies had grown at all in the past 4 years. If there was only Wei 11, Ika could understand it. After all, she had another identity. But Liu Yin, who was originally human, could not stop developing at this age. The only reason that can explain this abnormality is the barrier that brought the two of them to this era. Xiaoyin stayed in that space for too long, and my magic power has completely penetrated into her body. As a magic costume, Wei 11 has an innately huge magic power reserve and recovery speed, just like other magic costumes. In order to adapt to the environment, human beings will change their physique according to the environment. This is exactly what happened to Liu Yin's body. Her magic value is so high because I never thought about this kind of thing. I just thought it would be different when I grow up. On the light blue cotton pajamas, drops of water spots spread from the center. Wei 11 used both hands to support her knees, using force and force again and again, meaninglessly. The hanging temples trembled with every word she spoke. If it weren't for me, she would have been able to live like a normal girl. I would be the only abnormal person. Wei 11's thoughts are as delicate as silk woven into the air, and she is very good at expressing her emotions alone through suppressed cries. Like a girl made of water, that must be the word used to describe her. It seems like your mood will calm down after you mess up your cute face with tears. But this kind of thing is only suitable for one person to do, and she chose the wrong place and person. If you hadn't saved Liu Yin from the soon-to-be annihilated Principality of Sentia, would she have had a chance to live like a normal girl? Ika would never allow Wei 11 to shed all her bitter tears. Even then, it's better than living like a monster. His hand grabbed Wei 11's left shoulder without thinking, intending to turn Wei 11's body to face him. You are not a monster. Even if your body grows a little slower than others, you are still a human. Liu Yin, who has a body like yours, is also a human. The hand holding his shoulder was tightening in response to Ika's high emotions. He had no intention of stopping. Preventing Wei 11 from feeling pain was not considered punishment at all. But Wei 11 didn't cry out, nor did she obey Ika's strength to turn around. Her lips hidden behind her long white hair must have been bitten tightly. Even so. Let's talk about these words after you contact Liu Yin. Ika let go of Wei 11's shoulders, and the fair skin under her pajamas must have been red and swollen. He realized that as a bystander, he was not qualified to speak on behalf of Liu Yin. After he let go of Wei 11 immediately raised her right hand to press the place she had just scratched, like an injured kitten protecting a bleeding wound. He felt the warm flowing blood in the palm of his hand, and the broken skeleton was all part of Wei 11's body. Aika felt a sense of guilt in her heart. Feel sorry. He apologized to Way 11, who shrank her body in fear, but I don't know if she heard her. For a long time, Way 11 turned her back to Aika. When she put down her little hand protecting the wound, she seemed to have thought through Aika's words. She rubbed her eyes vigorously, trying to attribute the redness to this action. Brother Aika, I'm sorry. No, it's me who should apologize. During this period of time, Aika didn't think about anything except apologizing to Way 11. He had been waiting for Way 11's first words, but he didn't expect it to be an apology to himself. I know everyone sees me as a human being, and I try to see myself that way. They don't see you as a human being, but because you are no longer different from us. Between the constantly changing identities, Way 11 could not adapt so quickly. Aika can now understand what she blurted out due to confusion. Thinking about it carefully, the reason why he did whatever he wanted to Way 11's body just now was just because he was annoyed because he didn't understand her in time. Thank you, I will have a serious talk with Xiaoyun, because if you only look at age, I am the older sister, he. Way 11 finally raised her head and faced Aika without any guilt. Without contacting Liuyin, there is no need to delve into whether it is a lie or not. Does that place hurt? Aika scratched her cheek in embarrassment. It seemed a bit hypocritical to show concern now. Way 11 was stunned by this question for a moment, then nodded slightly. It doesn't matter here. As she spoke, she unbuttoned the light blue pajamas from the top. Aika didn't stop her, but quickly turned her head away from looking in her direction. When Way 11 unbuttoned the third button, she stopped what she was doing. Then take off the pajamas on your left shoulder below your shoulder. It's so cold. A shiver ran through her body. Put some clothes on if it's cold. Aika knew that she just wanted to show her the place where she was caught to prove that she was fine. You can't go see her without permission, just basic morals. Brother Aika, don't worry about me so much. Way 11 took Aika's hand and placed it on her injured position. Attracted by this action, Aika turned her head. Under the pajamas that fell below the shoulders, the milky white underwear straps were exposed and passed around the small shoulders. The delicate skin is still glowing with light red, but it is not a dazzling redness, but a more beautiful color. There are no traces left. The small shoulders were gently raised and then gently lowered as Way 11's breathing gradually accelerated. The body temperature directly transmitted from the palm of the hand is higher than when wearing pajamas. Aika unconsciously moved her fingers and rubbed the soft skin. Ah! A gentle moan escaped from Way 11's mouth. Her cheeks were the same color as her shoulders. Aika hurriedly stopped moving her fingers, but still couldn't leave her shoulder. Brother Aika, when you were at the airport, you said that when you can't figure it out, you should find evidence from other people. Of course Aika would not forget what she said just a few hours ago. When I was caught by Brother Aika just now, I was actually a little relieved because it hurt. Not fear, but peace of mind. Luoluo and Sister Ling both feel pain, so I can be like them. But there are no traces left, and it doesn't hurt now. Way 11 put her hand on the back of Aika's hand and did not allow him to leave. Isn't this good? It's not good at all. If you can't figure it out next time, there will be no evidence. So, it doesn't matter if it hurts me a little more, and it doesn't matter if it leaves marks on my body. Way 11 let go of her hand, allowing Aika to be free for less than a second. Immediately afterwards, she knocked Aika down on the bed. To be precise, Way 11's strength couldn't knock down Aika, and Aika just wanted to catch her falling body. Brother Aika, please give me the evidence that I am a human being and a girl. After the action just now, Way 11's pajamas had been half taken off, and only the remaining 2 buttons were barely hanging on her waist. The milky white plain underwear was all exposed, and the small bow in front of the underwear seemed to be the switch that could take it off. When she was pressed against her in the hotel in the kingdom of Tiburai, Her nightgown was still decorated with lace children's underwear. Way 11. It's not that Ika couldn't understand the hidden meaning of Way 11's words. After all, she had already confessed to herself in that way in the ruins. However, at this time, she must give her a clear answer, not as vague as last night. Way 11 said this to herself even though she knew that she had the same feelings as Lugo and Ling. Lugo and Ling should know that she is here, otherwise it would be impossible for them to stay away from the room for such a long time. Did they expect such a situation? Brother Ika said he likes me, I just want to leave evidence before being hated. Even if you do this, I won't come to hate you. Ika grabbed Way 11's arm supporting her body with her backhand and easily changed their positions. Way 11's back hit the soft bed and she blinked as if she didn't understand what happened. Ika put one hand next to her cheek, and the other hand still didn't let go of her arm. Her knees naturally pressed against the soft buttocks, and Way 11 clamped Ika's legs tightly. She turned her head hard not to look at Ika, tears overflowed from her closed eyes and slid down in the tilted direction. Although her uneasy mood caused her whole body to tremble like cold, and her lips breathed out hot breath quickly, her hand also did not let go of Ika's wrist. I am a member of Brother Ika's family, and I am also a magic costume that only belongs to you, so it doesn't matter what you do to me, whatever you wish, my master. As the chest inflated slightly with breathing, the small red bow lost its meaning of existence. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 300. Olga followed Zi Ming's order and left the castle with the Purple Rose Knights and Anja. Because they held the seal symbolizing the royal family Ila and Ziming Yila, they left the Augustus airport before the obstruction of the Senate came. But at the same time, the Imperial Army and the Imperial Knights also took control of Zi Ming's castle non-stop. After the Purple Rose Knights and Anja left, this castle built only for house arrest has become an empty city. At this time, soldiers and knights wearing military uniforms can be seen everywhere guarding the castle. The three senators, including Zi Ming who was alone and the instigator Emilius, sat across the table in the empty meeting hall. Your Highness, did the knights directly under you give up their duty to protect you at all times and choose the same path as the third princess? The information that the Purple Rose Knight plans to use Zi Ming's exclusive royal aviation magic ship Aurora to leave August will reach the ears of the Senate the moment they enter the airport. Therefore, Zi Ming does not need to hide the fact that the Purple Rose Knights are not in August at this time. The visit of the Emperor and his sister to the Kingdom of Tiberai is an important diplomatic measure, and I have naturally heard about it. Your Excellency Emilius, why are you so opposed to the bill passed by all the ministers in the parliament? The Senate has no objections to the resolution adopted by His Majesty the Emperor and His Majesty the Pope. I'm very sorry. It seems that I misunderstood your way of expression. Your Highness Princess, I believe you already know that the third princess's arbitrary trip has not been approved by the Senate and can be regarded as an illegal act. However, the Emperor is not yet clear whether he will participate in this matter of his own will. He needs to consider being controlled by the third princess and the Senate. The possibility of being held hostage by the knights directly. Of course Zi Ming knew that Lan Ming's actions had constituted an illegal act, but Lan Ming still had a way out. The secret trip was to prevent obstruction by the radical faction of the Senate. After arriving in the Kingdom of Tiberai, the Emperor and the King jointly issued a diplomatic statement, which would make the illegal behavior justifiable, and the radical faction of the Senate could not stop it. The Knights of Blue Rose, one of the strongest in the Bis Empire, is the last insurance. Originally, Zi Ming did not need to go to such great lengths to interfere with Lan Ming's decision, but Lan Ming did not expect that there would be collusion between the Empire and the Nemesis Society. If Her Royal Highness the Princess's direct knights are involved, they will be deemed to be guilty of the same crime. Now recall your direct knights, and we can also consider it at our discretion. I think the elders may have misunderstood my intention. The lie only needs to be sustained enough to convey the crisis to Lan Ming, and the emperor's statement can completely reverse the situation. Before becoming a caged bird, Zi Ming, as a princess, and Lan Ming were both roses blooming in the political and social circles. It is precisely in order to prevent the situation that you are worried about from happening that I forcibly ordered the Purple Rose Knights to abandon their original responsibilities and go to inform the emperor and the emperor's sister. I believe you will understand my thoughts. Emilius did not immediately agree, and the other two senators, Marcus and Scalus, did not express their opinions either. In this way, they lost the reason to press forward step by step to recall the Knights of the Purple Rose, but in doing so, they also blocked their own escape route. Zi Ming was mentally prepared when he took the first step. This is a head-to-head confrontation in the political arena. From now on, we can only take one step at a time. Then, according to what Her Royal Highness the Princess said, we will wait for the good news of the Purple Rose Knights. In addition, this castle no longer has enough power to protect your safety. Before your direct knights return in triumph, please allow the Senate to arrange an escort for you. Zi Ming couldn't refuse. This was Emilius's condition for retreating, and it was also a move that had already been in his plan. Because the Nemesis Society had a lot of trouble along the way, the Knights of the Purple Rose did not rush to Rakalaf before the incident. At 8:15 that night, the rioting technology party had just been suppressed, and the entire city of Lakalaf had been sealed off by the kingdom's army. After Aurora showed its identity to the airport control tower, it stayed in the air for a long time before being allowed to land. That's Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Ming's aviation-guided ship Ostara. The Purple Rose Knights immediately recognized Lan Ming's exclusive royal aviation-guided ship. The entire airport was brightly lit, and the noisy voices were so mixed together that it was impossible to hear what was being said. Captain, the entire airport is now blocked. My subordinates just asked the staff here about the current situation. It is said that there is a riot in the city. A riot? A riot broke out during the emperor's visit, and Olwigia only had a bad premonition in her heart. He walked toward the guards who seemed to belong to the kingdom's army, but immediately dozens of guns with reflected searchlight lights were pointed at him. Olwigia could only stand still. Sorry, visitors from the Bizi Empire. We have been ordered not to let you leave here, and we will not accept any questions. The commander, who seemed to be the leader, explained Olwigia in common language with a slight accent. When the knight leader was pointed at gunpoint, the Purple Rose Knights instantly entered a state where they could counterattack at any time. The magic equipment of any knight here can turn purely mechanical firearms into scrap metal, and the difference in combat power is very obvious. Probably realizing this, the kingdom's army did not dare to make any unnecessary moves. Olwigia alone could break through such a defensive line, but he only made an understood gesture to the officer. At this time when the incident is unclear, it would be an unwise decision to trigger a conflict between the two countries. Want to wait here? Anja, who was asked by Olwigia to stay on standby inside Aurora, quietly walked outside the ship. After Olwigia's attempt was thwarted, Anja asked him about his current plans. Contact the Knights of the Blue Rose first. Waiting is absolutely not allowed. On the contrary, precisely because there is such serious turmoil in the kingdom, every second counts. The king of the Tiburai kingdom, protected by layers of guards, rushed to the scene before Aurora landed. Prior to this, the empire had issued a statement to the kingdom of Tiburai. The kingdom of Tiburai should bear full responsibility for the murder of the emperor abroad, and the murderer should be arrested within 1 day, otherwise corresponding measures will be taken from that day on. Princess Lan Mingyila, I am deeply sorry. Your Majesty, the Emperor was killed in our country. Our country will use all its strength to track down the murderer and hand it over to your country for disposal. From the moment the king appeared on the scene, the eyes of both countries were focused on him. Making such a statement in front of many media is also a positive response to the statement of the busy empire. Despite experiencing the pain of losing his father only dozens of minutes ago, Lan Ming still did not damage the image of the busy empire in front of the camera. We are also responsible for our negligence in this matter. We will give priority to escorting the emperor back to the country. If your country's search is blocked, we will extend the time limit as appropriate. The busy empire's statement was issued on behalf of the Senate, and Lan Ming was unable to suppress the empire's statement in public. Although Lan Ming had already anticipated the speed of the reaction of that group of people, he still underestimated them in the end. Here, she could only accept the temporary suspension of the Tiberai kingdom on behalf of the busy empire. A guard jumped from the speeding motorcycle and whispered in the king's ear. "Your Majesty the King, there is an aviation magic ship from the busy empire requesting to land at the airport of this city. The Knights of the Purple Rose." The king repeated the name so that Lan Ming could hear it. Unexpected events happened one after another, leaving Lan Ming a little overwhelmed. The Purple Rose Knights are here, which means that Zi Ming is by his side. The Knights of the Purple Rose are the knights directly under the royal family of our country. Please allow them to land at your country's airport. In any case, since they are here now, their priority must be themselves. Although he didn't know what Zi Ming was thinking, Lan Ming couldn't waste the power she sent to him. "I understand, allow them to land. The Knights of the Purple Rose do not have the right to board Ostara and can only entrust their accompanying technicians to repair the communication equipment that has stopped working on Aurora. Captain, we have connected to the public channel of our country." The face of the female knight in charge of monitoring suddenly turned ugly. "It's unbelievable." Olga felt something close to despair from the female knight, whose expression changed drastically. "What did you hear?" Olga, who had always been gentle, unconsciously raised his voice. The female knight who was monitoring did not immediately respond verbally to Olga's question. Instead, she quickly wrote down what she heard in her earphones on the paper at hand. Olga, who received no response, could not bear her anxiety and walked quickly to the female knight who recorded the record. "The notes are not yet complete, but the bullet points listed in separate lines are concise and easy to understand. Are those people finally crazy? This is no longer a fight under the water, but the reality that Zi Ming expected the situation to come true." End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 301. The information that the radical faction of the Senate had convicted Lan Ming in the country had not yet reached the Tiberai kingdom, where communications were blocked. After Lan Ming completed his mission in front of the media's cameras, he rushed to the airport to join the Purple Rose Knights. The Royal Aviation magic ships Ostara and Aurora are now placed side by side in the canal. The Purple Rose Knights gave Lan Ming the courtesy of knighthood. "Did the Imperial sister ask you to come here? Who is guarding her now?" No one could immediately answer Shang Lan Ming's core question. From their silent attitudes, Lan Ming was not aware of the current situation. Weidman only received a personal contact from Olga when the motorcade was approaching the airport. Among Lan Ming and his party, only Wildman knew that there was a rebellion in the busy empire. "I believe you all already know the statement issued by our country. The Imperial sister may know more things that I don't know." At this moment, when the national conflicts are gradually intensifying, Lan Ming still maintains calm thinking and remains calm in the face of danger. Weidman accepted Olga's look. It is not Olga's job to convey the conspiracy against Lan Ming, but the task of the leader of the Blue Rose Knights. "Your Highness Princess, I have something to report." "You tell me." "Emilius's group suspected that you ordered the assassination of His Excellency the Emperor, and they have held a press conference in the country. Your Excellency Junius and others did not attend, I'm afraid." Ming Ming was suddenly told that he had been charged with a crime that would not be surprising if he was punished with the death penalty. Lan Ming just closed his eyes quietly. "I see. Is this the development that the Imperial sister expected?" At this time, She was asking a question to the Knights of the Purple Rose. Yes, Her Royal Highness Princess Zimingila ignored her own safety and sent the direct knights here. But the person who answered her question was Anja, who was somewhat distant from the Knights of the Purple Rose. Her tone was still without any inflection, but the dissatisfaction hidden in it was conveyed to everyone present through her cold words. Anja. This is not the responsibility of Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Mingyila. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. After being scolded by Olwijia, Anja, who was wearing a mask, probably tried to adjust her mentality, but she could no longer take back what she said. I'm very sorry, Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Mingyila. Olga once again apologized to Lan Ming on behalf of Zi Ming. Lan Ming was not angry because of Anji's gaffe, but her spearhead had penetrated deeply into Lan Ming's heart. I thought that the target of the assassination would target me, but I didn't expect that the other party's target would be the Emperor of the Bis Empire. The domestic situation would develop in this way when the Emperor was assassinated. Lan Ming had vaguely anticipated it, so he did not feel that it was unacceptable. Without the Purple Rose Knights around Zi Ming, one can imagine her current situation. As Anja said, this helpless situation was caused by herself. Now I want to escort the Emperor's body back to the country. Since the Emperor asked you to follow me, the Purple Rose Knights will also return to the country with me. Your Highness, are you still prepared to return to China under this situation? If I return to the country, I will take the initiative to step into the trap of the radicals? Is that what you want to say, Mr. Agos? Weidman was speechless. After speaking out in a moment of anxiety, he realized that Lan Ming couldn't even understand this truth. That's right, Your Highness Princess. Your Excellency Emilius and others will definitely take advantage of this matter, and the Senate and nobles who support you will also be implicated. On behalf of the Purple Rose Knights, I hereby implore you to find another way. No matter what my decision is, the Knights of the Purple Rose must return to their imperial sister. With all due respect, Her Royal Highness Princess Zimingila has relieved us of our duties. Her last order is for us to ensure your safety and perform the same duties. Olga did not give in to Lan Ming's order. Zi Ming's last order was the only belief that supported the actions of the Purple Rose Knights. Although they have been relieved of their direct responsibilities as a knight, they are still carrying out the tasks assigned by Zi Ming. The position of the Purple Rose Knight is now very contradictory. Olwijia decided not to distinguish between belongings. At this moment, Lan Ming's safety should be the first priority, not his own princess. You are already isolated and helpless in our country. Your Excellency Junius, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and others have been suspended for investigation. If you lose your freedom, our country will have no hope. Your opinion is very reasonable, but your starting point is always from me, not from the country's standpoint. Neither Olga nor Wildman could deny Lan Ming's accusations. They really believed that Lan Ming should not continue to act as the princess of the Bis Empire now. Fundamentally speaking, the two directly affiliated knights only have the princess they serve as their core, not the Bis Empire. However, should we tell Lan Ming to give up the Bizi Empire? The glory of the knight will never allow himself to trample on the determination of Her Royal Highness the Princess. If you comply with such a conviction and flee, it will be equivalent to admitting such an inexplicable crime, and the people's hearts will be shaken. Lan Ming's heart was definitely not as calm as she appeared. When she talked about the inexplicable crime, her tone even trembled. Her anger and reluctance were not expressed in words, but they still seeped out from the details. When His Majesty the Emperor entrusted me with the bill in the Diet, I promised that I would bear all the responsibilities arising from the Cooperative Trade City Plan, so I cannot evade it. Until the end, Lan Ming did not lower her position and exercised her responsibilities as the Princess of the Bizi Empire from beginning to end. The ice pavilion carrying the Emperor was transported by the Ostara, and the Aurora served as an escort. Two Royal Air Magic ships took off from the Laycraft Airport and merged into the dark night. When Ostara and Aurora left Lokalov Airport, the transport truck holding the rioters also left Lokalov. In the dark night, only the fleet of transport trucks turned on their lights to illuminate the road ahead. The king has assigned the task of searching for the assassins, and these criminals who participated in the riots will be sent to local prisons for interrogation. These criminals are currently the only possible clues. Dozens of motorcycles were driving on the dark night road, and then huge flames rose from the convoy, illuminating the surrounding darkness. The silent flames roll up high-temperature energy that spreads around, dissolving all inorganic and organic matter within its reach. It's solved. The night-colored dress that blends perfectly into the black curtain dances on the edge that the heat wave cannot reach. Thank you, Misty. The white trench coat fluttered in the strong wind carrying the breath of death. Just now, Will and Misty completed the final task assigned by Lalicia. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 302. Charlotte, you haven't said anything since the beginning. Your Highness, do you want me to stop you? But I feel a little lonely without saying anything. The one who will become lonely next is me. Sorry. Even if Charlotte used the title Her Royal Highness to distance herself when the two of them were alone. Even if Charlotte threats herself with words like loneliness. Apart from apologizing to her, Lan Ming couldn't say a single word of comfort. Because of my willfulness, the Aizian family must have been implicated. The Aizian family where Charlotte Lives has been famous as a night guard for the royal family for generations. If the person Charlotte served was not herself, she would not face this kind of trouble. If this is the mission of Her Royal Highness the Princess, then it is also the mission of the Aizian family. I think my father will have no objection. In fact, Lan Ming didn't want to hear Xiaoluo's seemingly comforting words at this moment. On the contrary, she wanted to be scolded severely by her night squire, at least such words would not bring the distance between the two so far. At this point, Lan Ming also knew that he was not qualified to make such a willful request to Xiaoluo again. When Ostara and Aurora passed half the distance, they received signals from their own fleet at the same time. Are our country's magic fleet already at such a close distance? Have they already set off from their home country when they issued the statement? This is a plan that has been planned for a long time, so we can only understand it this way. Your Excellency Agos, inform the Knights of the Purple Rose that we will accept the army's acceptance. Receive. After Weidman left, Lan Ming continued the unfinished topic with Charlotte. If the conversation between the two of them only stopped here, Lan Ming would not be able to listen to the Empire's orders with peace of mind. Charlotte, no matter what happens in the future, don't act rashly. You alone cannot change the overall situation. When Charlotte heard this, the subtle changes in her expression did not escape Lan Ming's eyes. This statement denies the meaning of Charlotte's existence, and is indeed too cruel for her at this moment. But Lan Ming must continue to play this role. Just as Xiaoluo did not say anything to save herself, she must also cut off her last attachment. Lan Ming boarded the Imperial Army's aviation magic ship, and the fleet commander conveyed the Senate's instructions to her. We will send additional escort fleets for Her Royal Highness the Princess, and they will escort you and Your Majesty the Emperor back to your home country safely. Why did our aviation magic fleet leave the national border? The statement issued to the Tiberai Kingdom should only be of a warning nature. We are very sorry. We are only following the instructions of the Minister of Military Affairs and have no right to disclose more information to you. It's okay, let me explain it to Her Royal Highness the Princess. A middle-aged man with a beard walked out from behind the bridge. His straight military uniform and deep eyes all showed his shrewdness. It is such a character who represents one of the Fu families in the Bizi Empire. Greetings from a long time ago, Her Royal Highness Princess Lan Ming Yila. As a high-ranking figure in the army, he still bowed to Lan Ming like a gentleman. Is this expedition commanded by the Luo 11 family? As you can see, Your Highness. Then please explain the motivation for this expedition, Your Excellency Crozier Rossi. Crozier Lugo 11 is the head of the Lugo 11 family, and he is also a family that supports the radical faction of the Senate behind the scenes. Naturally, Lanming does not have much favorable impressions of him. According to the information sent back by the intelligence agency, the convoy used by the Tiburai Kingdom to transport thugs was attacked. The suspicion that the Tiburai Kingdom destroyed evidence cannot be ruled out. The Senate and ministers are holding an emergency meeting in August, and if you wait, we will set off first and wait for subsequent instructions. The so-called follow-up order is nothing more than a declaration of war against the Tiburai Kingdom. External expansion is the ambition of the radical faction of the Senate, and this is also a part of their plan. The Lugo 11 family, with military enterprises as its core pillar, is naturally more inclined to the radical ideas. Lanming was not interested in continuing to ask. 3 medium-sized aviation magic ships were separated from the BZ Empire's aviation magic fleet formation. As frigates for the 2 Royal Aviation magic ships, they left in the opposite direction of the magic fleet's advance. Although it is called an escort fleet, it is actually just a containment measure to prevent Lanming from having an accident on the way. As Lanming understood, at the 0 point of August when she returned, the radical faction of the Senate who was in power tore up the contract between the 2 countries and officially declared war on the Kingdom of Tiburai. Ostara and Aurora were surrounded by the Imperial Army after entering the harbor. The Blue Rose Knights and Purple Rose Knights did not resist under Lanming's instructions. The man who got off the black-painted August motorcycle was Marcus, the patriarch of the radical faction. Please, Her Royal Highness the Third Princess, go with me to the Congress Hall. Everyone directly under the Knights, please wait here for instructions. Naturally, Wildman would not allow such an unreasonable request. As long as Lanming was still a princess, the Knights of the Blue Rose would not put her in the enemy's hands. Your Excellency Agas, there will be no results in a stalemate here. The next thing will be troublesome to you. All the Templars present were far more mature than Xiaoluo, and nearly half of them belonged to the Fu family, so Lanming gave them different instructions from Xiaoluo. The imperial soldier opened the door of the black motorcycle for Lanming, and Charlotte, who was accustomed to following her, was stopped. Your Excellency Izian, please stay here too. Charlotte, you must remember what I said to you. It was these words that made Charlotte stop and look away. Lanming bent down and got into the motorcycle, and the door closed quietly. The inside of the car window cannot be seen from outside the car window. So until the locomotive drove into the darkness, Charlotte still didn't look back. The waiting time in August's airport was incredibly short, and the consequences for those involved in this incident were issued. Although the Knights of the Purple Rose failed to prevent the incident from happening, they were not convicted and they were able to continue to perform their duties as a knight directly under the 4th princess. The Knights of the Blue Rose, as a knight directly subordinate to the 3rd princess, were dismissed by the Senate and reorganized into the Imperial Knights. Anja, who was not taken seriously, was also relieved of her duty to serve the 4th princess and sent back to her hometown on the border of the empire. Charlotte took over Anja's task. The Senate arranged for her to be the night guard of the 4th princess, so that she was not allowed to leave Zi Ming's side. Placing Charlotte, who has a close relationship with Lanming, next to Zi Ming may become an invisible time bomb. Emilius knows this very well. The reason why I still make this arrangement even though I know it well is because putting this time bomb under my nose makes it easier to deal with it in time. Although Lanming Yila resisted tenaciously during the pursuit, the Imperial Army fulfilled its mission and captured her. Her connection with the assassination of His Excellency the Emperor is currently under investigation, and during this period she will be deprived of her status and rights as a royal family member. Although Lanming was not convicted, this embellished statement greatly enhanced the credibility of his remarks. Regarding Lanming's treatment, the radical faction of the Senate only held a press conference, and her location was not mentioned in the announcement. The person involved, Lan Ming, did not appear in public to express his position. The distorted facts in the press conference alone were enough to lead most citizens into misunderstandings. Her Royal Highness the Queen is bedridden due to a major change in the royal family. After the Senate and the Parliament decided, the fourth princess who inherited the royal family's magic costume Candle Dragon Gold, Her Royal Highness Princess Zimingila, will take charge of the government. Everything is moving forward on the path arranged by the radical faction of the Senate. As we all know, Her Royal Highness Princess Zimingila has been unwell all year round and has difficulty traveling. Her instructions will be conveyed by the second prince, Philip Yila. Next, Philippe Yira spoke to the public at a press conference, which was already scripted. Zimingala was unable to appear in public due to physical discomfort and difficulty traveling. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. And La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 303. Harmony section. Excuse me, can you two pause for a moment? Wow. I don't know when Wei 11, who had taken the leading position in the ceremony, jumped up like a frightened bird. She hurriedly left Ika, pulled the quilt folded on the bed and hid her naked body in it. Ika's clothes were still on him, but the sudden appearance of a third person also startled him. Is it Ling or Luoluo? How late is it now? Did he come to see her because Wei 11 hadn't come back for a long time? Wait, there's a reason for this. There is no need to explain to me, I am here to convey important things to you. It was not a familiar voice to those two people, but a voice that seemed to have been heard for a long time. Ika then raised his head and looked intently at the figure standing beside the bed. The girl is wearing a gorgeous trousers, and her long hair is flowing down like a violet waterfall. Inili. Did you just call me out to do this kind of thing? Unili was not as angry as Ling and Luoluo, but the eyes she looked at Ika were full of contempt. Ika sat awkwardly on the edge of the bed, while Inili took 2 steps back. So no matter what, you should listen to my explanation. The men's explanations are all the same. I am not interested and don't want to listen. Unili curled her hanging hair with her fingers and refused this waste of time with a repulsive attitude. If you don't know the inside story and only know the relationship between their families, it will be just a so-called affair in anyone's eyes. Whoever you have an affair with has nothing to do with me. Anyway, the men of the Kin's family are all the same. Ika really couldn't understand how Inili linked this kind of thing to the family. A small hand stretched out from the quilt that was curled up in a ball, and quietly groped around the quilt. Fortunately, Wei 11's underwear was within the groping range, and her little hand that touched the underwear immediately retracted. Unili and Ika were now focusing on each other, and no one noticed Wei 11's small movements. I really didn't think of using her identity as an excuse, but the reason is at least legitimate. No matter whether he has been misunderstood or not, he must at least help Wei 11 clarify. She definitely wasn't in that frivolous mood, and Ika didn't want anyone to misunderstand her mood. Inili, who half covered her mouth with her wide sleeves, finally reacted to Ika's words. She turned to face Ika and narrowed her eyes slightly. I thought you would keep emphasizing that child's identity. I treat her as a girl who is the same as my family. If I continue to use this excuse, I am putting the cart before the horse. The quilt behind Ika squirmed, and Inili just saw it beyond Ika's line of sight. Since you regard that child as an ordinary woman, my understanding seems to be correct. That kind of understanding doesn't matter to me, but she doesn't have such a self-awareness yet. Isn't this unfair to her? Inili let out a long sigh, then showed an inappropriate smile. Xuechaoziji, how about you stop hiding behind your master all the time? When Wei 11's real name was called, she started squirming in the quilt again, as if she was putting on clothes in a hurry. Ika also noticed something unusual after hearing Wei 11's real name after a long absence. Unili, do you know about Wei 11? I've heard about her before, but this is the first time I've seen her in person. Inili didn't deny it. Only then did Ika realize that the contempt shown by Inili was just an act. I just wanted to see what level of enlightenment your holder has reached. But everyone who knew about Wei 11's past should be gone now. In fact, even Principal Phyllis, who had experienced the cross-border war, did not know about Wei 11. No, Principal Phyllis didn't delve into this matter. If she also knew about Wei 11's existence from the beginning, it would explain why she let Wei 11 go so readily. Wei 11, who was hiding under the quilt, finally came out slowly. She had been eavesdropping on the conversation between Ika and Inili. Wei 11 looked at Inili blankly, not looking like they knew each other. Inili retracted her playful tone and her expression became serious. I won't investigate the issue between you for the time being, and of course I won't talk about it to anyone else. There are more important things now. By the way, you just said you wanted to tell us something very important. Ika had not yet imagined how important something must be communicated late at night. To make a long story short, the Senate has just announced that the third princess who went to the Tiburai kingdom is suspected of assassinating the emperor, and has now sent troops to the Tiburai kingdom. Half an hour after the emperor's assassination, it was also the time when the Senate held a press conference. Lilith, who was preparing to rest in the girls' dormitory, also learned the news through her family's contact network. Although Lilith had little contact with the political circle, she immediately noticed something fishy in this matter. First of all, no matter how much he knew about the third princess, the Senate issued the announcement to all the people too quickly. There are definitely no shortage of disputes surrounding various interests within the nobility, and the same must be true for the royal family. This is why Lilith hates the political circle. It's like it has become a conclusion. If this conclusion is true, there will definitely be earth-shaking changes in the senior personnel of the BZ Empire. Lilith's family is only a fringe noble, and the impact of this wave on the family is minimal. The current head of the family, Ms. Elise, and Lilith's mother just asked her to stay at Frost Moon Academy and wait for this wave to pass. But when she saw this message, Lilith couldn't obey her mother's words and sit in the dormitory. Lilith, do you still want to go out now? I'm sorry, Tiluya, please go to sleep first, I will be back soon. Lilith changed her pajamas into a uniform for going out, briefly arranged her appearance in front of the dressing mirror, and then ran to the entrance. Tiluya, who was sitting at the desk reading, wanted to go out with her, but in the end he didn't touch her personal affairs. You have forgotten this. Tiruya handed the umbrella that Lilith had dropped into her hand. Thank you, Tiruya. If you don't come back, remember to tell me. I think it shouldn't take too long. Lilith just wanted to make sure that they, who had a close relationship with the third princess, already knew about this matter. Because he would never sit idly by and ignore the crisis of the third princess. End La Silver Machine. Author, Muse Hiking. Chapter 304. When Ling and Luoluo were called out of the room, Ika realized that the time he and Wei 11 spent alone was not that long. At least it wasn't time yet for Wei 11 to go to bed on time. If you want to report on the progress of your relationship with Wei 11, then that's not necessary. Sister Ling, no matter what I say, it won't be so fast. I want you to meet someone first. Brother, who else will come so late? Anyway, you will know after seeing it. Ika brought Ling and Luoluo, who were suddenly called out of the room, to the living room, where Wei 11 was already waiting for everyone. The two of them sat down next to Wei 11, and Ika, who gathered everyone in the living room, started the chip-type molecular power furnace in the PDA. Inili appeared in front of everyone, dressed in gorgeous clothes. The silence that lasted less than a few seconds felt like it had lengthened several times. In fact, it didn't feel that long, and Ling's tired voice remained the same. Who are you? Aika looked at Anili standing proudly with her hands on her hips, vaguely recalling the awkwardness when they first met. Humph, I come from the other side thousands of years ago. Wait, Anili, let me explain. As soon as Aika interrupted and answered Unili's unclear self-introduction, Ling's eyes locked on him. Although she didn't say anything, the resentment urging Aika to speak quickly was conveyed through her frown. Aika, who clearly heard Ling's heart, looked away in embarrassment, but Lugo was sitting on Ling's left. She seemed to have not recovered from the shock, and her eyes still did not move away from Anili, who was standing with her hands crossed. Well, actually, this person has been in contact with us a long time ago and helped us erase the records when we left the imperial capital. Has such a thing ever happened? Ling and Aika's memories are not in sync. You weren't awake at that time, so of course you didn't know. It turns out we met because of that incident. Only then did Ling realize that what Aika vaguely stated was an incident caused by her, and she suddenly didn't know how to react. Could it be that she was the one who used the PDA to help us guide us at that time? I don't know what the switch is for Lolo to switch modes, but she responded to Aika's explanation. She is Coconuts' friend. I and Coconut are in a cooperative relationship. It's okay to be friends. The only person here who knows Yinili is Aika, and Wei 11 just met her for the first time at a very embarrassing time. It would be too troublesome to mention the process of getting acquainted with Yunili here, so Aika skipped this step. Anyway, she said that just call her Yunili. Yunili, please tell them what you just said about Lan Ming. You are really rude when you call someone. I'm asking you solemnly, and you know the things over there better than I do. Compared with Aika relaying the information conveyed by Anili, it is less likely to cause ambiguity if the person directly explains it. Aika only learned from Anili that Lan Ming's current position was very sinister, so he forcibly left Anili here to explain. To put it simply, it's a coup. Lan Ming Yila is the first heir to the royal family. Someone in August wanted her to step down, so the news came out that she planned to assassinate the emperor. Miss Lan Ming assassinated the emperor? This is impossible. But in fact, the emperor was indeed assassinated, and it was in the Tiberai kingdom that the Bis Empire could not monitor. Anili added the explanation to Lolo, who was in disbelief without mercy, and she used a tone that left no room for doubt. But it's impossible. Wait, Lugo, Ling raised her hand to stop Lugo's meaningless questioning. Before that, I have something to ask Miss Anili. Heinz, do you have any ideas? Ling's tone contained more doubts about Yunili's words, and Yunili could not fail to hear it. But when Yunili was about to accept Ling's question, what came out of her mouth were irrelevant words. First of all, thank you for helping us when we were in August. Ling's hesitation did not seem rude, but Yunili did not expect that the first thing she said was not a question. Ahaha, you don't need to make a special trip to say thank you. I'm just entrusted by Coconut, but I helped you leave Augustus because I wanted to do so. I think this kind of thing still needs to be said, and then, talking about the matter, your tone seems to want to tell us that the content of the news is false. Aika also had a vague feeling that Anili's explanations in the room and in the living room were not consistent. However, the Pope also once said that there were divisions within Augustus, and preconceptions prevented Aika from doubting Anili's statement. As observers, Lugo and Wei 11 certainly didn't know who was right and who was wrong. They could only wait nervously for Yunili to answer Ling's question. Your intuition is very good. There are indeed too many subjective factors in my statement. Anili did not evade, but positively affirmed Ling's question. Ling's question obviously didn't take into account the atmosphere, but communicating with doubts will only waste time. In a sense, it is indeed the most appropriate approach. Is Miss Anili a member of Augustus? No, I'm just in the imperial capital. So, what is the purpose of telling us this information? Do you hope that we can intervene in August's affairs? With the names of the Chiz family and the Heinz family, it is not difficult to legitimately enter August. You and Augustus are inextricably linked. I think it is necessary to let you know, and I do not expect you to make any decisions. Ling, let's stop here. If Unili really has other purposes, you can't ask them here. The boy from the Chiz family is also merciless in his words. Ika stopped Ling and turned herself into the target. Feel sorry. My mission has been completed. As for your decision, I will not interfere again. Ika originally thought that Unili would say this because she was angered by Ling's series of questions, but the look in her eyes that Unili glanced at made him change his mind. Don't you look forward to it? That clear look in his eyes was like saying the opposite. Inili put down these unfinished words, and her figure dissolved in the air of the living room. The molecular power furnace in the PDA stopped operating, and the screen returned to its normal interface. After Inili disappeared, there was no trace of her presence left in the living room. It was originally a product of projection magic, so naturally it would not leave any breath behind. But the atmosphere left by her confrontation with Ling still lingered. Ika took back her PDA and sat down opposite the three of them. Ling, there's no need to make the atmosphere so tense, right? Yes, Miss Inili has helped us before, so she shouldn't be a bad person. Didn't you hear the meaning of her words? Only Luoluo expressed doubts about this, while Ika was not sure. Luoluo, who looked back and forth between Ling and Ika, really didn't know what the implication that Ling pointed out was. Sister Ling also said just now that the internal affairs of the BZ Empire are not something we can interfere with. At least there is something we can do. Whether Lan Ming has the premeditation mentioned in the news, you just have to ask him in person. Look, Miss Inili has caught a big fish. There was no surprise in Ling's tone. She had expected Ika to say such words when she heard Unili's information induction. At this time, Ika's PDA vibrated in his hand. Immediately afterwards, there was a knock on the door of the administrator's cabin, as if he had spotted the right moment and intervened. Their conversation was temporarily interrupted, and Ika opened the text message she had received a few seconds ago. Will anyone come at this time? It should be Senior Lilith, I received her text message. The text message was sent from Senior Lilith's PDA, which roughly meant that she was now outside the door of the administrator's cabin and asked if it would be convenient for everyone to meet. Generally speaking, this kind of text message should be sent before departure, not after you are already at the door. Probably, Senior Sister Lilith had been hesitating whether to go back home on the way here, which resulted in this. Ika just speculated like this, maybe it was to not give everyone an excuse to escape. There were countless reasons that could be thought of. There is only one correct answer, and only I know it best. Ling left her seat to open the door for Senior Lilith. In the past, this was Luoluo's job. But tonight she was obviously thinking about other things and looked distracted. Ika noticed that she had rarely spoken since Unili appeared. I wanted to take advantage of the break in the topic to ask her if there was anything she hadn't said, but Wei 11 seemed to be thinking about the same thing as him. Luoluo, do you still care about that sister just now? It's not like that. That's it? Wei 11 knew that her question would only get this answer. She just wanted to talk to Luoluo. Even if there is only one sentence, at least the psychology of the two of them can be filled more or less. When Inili explained August's situation, Wei 11 didn't say a word. Because what happened in the BZ Empire was too far away from me. Although it is not something that can be forgotten after hearing it, there is no need to take it too seriously. That sister knows about me. If she comes from the other side of thousands of years, don't pay too much attention to what she said. I don't think Professor Kokona can know someone from the other side of thousands of years. Ika's eyes fell on Wei 11, who nodded slightly in agreement, but she couldn't speak anymore. There was a guy from far away sitting right in front of me. Wait, maybe it's not completely impossible. Noticing that Ika's eyes were on her, Way 11 turned her head slightly to understand the reason. But, as I say, it only lasts less than 100 years. The so-called the other side of tens of millions of years is more often just a literary modification. Ika was thinking about whether to explain this kind of thing to Way 11, who was in a delicate position. The voices of Ling and Senior Lilith talking at the entrance gradually became clearer. He stood up from his seat and then noticed that Luo Luo, who was sitting quietly, was still not moved by Way 11's hard work.